Good morning. So, I was thinking since recently we in the US celebrated Mother's Day, whatever form we do in this quarantine style. And yeah, and I want to read this chapter about Ruth and Naomi. It's like the relationship they have with each other. It's like the best relationship between a mother-in-law and her daughter-in-law. Honestly, in real life, I witnessed really good relationship between mothers-in-law and daughters-in-law before, so it's exciting. So it's a good listen. So I recommend you to read the book of Ruth. Okay. To learn the backstory, and it's a short book. Actually, Book of Ruth is one out of two books in the Bible. It has the main characters as women folk, so God does value his daughters. So, yeah, Ruth and Naomi, friends through in-law. On the low, reed-covered south bank of the Arnon River, separating Moab from the land of the Israelites, three women stood weeping and clinging to one another. The two younger women, Ruth and Orpah, were the Moabites. The old woman, a Jewess, named Naomi, their mother-in-law. Tears came easily for all three. Ruth and Orpah were recently widowed, and their husbands were Naomi's only sons. Can you imagine 3 women weeping by a river? So I'll just continue on with the story. Okay. A long history of fiction between Moab and Israel made the devotion of these 3 women unusual. But there they stood, weeping together, on their way back to Judah, where Naomi felt they would fare better as women with their men dead. Years before, Naomi, her husband, and their 2 sons, Mahlon and Chilion, had left their home city Bethlehem in Judah during a famine and settled in Moab. Oh, fun fact, Bethlehem was where Jesus was born thousands of years later. This is basically Jesus' ancestors, I believe. Okay, so they're in Moab. Naomi, her husband, and 2 sons. And then the sons married Moabite girls. Naomi's husband died first, then her sons. And now the 3 women stood by the river weeping at the last sight of Moab, where they all had been happy. Orpah's weeping grew hopelessly, and Naomi checked her own to comfort her daughter-in-law. Orpah, life must go on for us, even without them. The young woman dropped to the ground, her sobbing uncontrollable, tears wetting her long black hair. So, let's see. Ruth pressed her hand to her lips to stop her own weeping and looked down at Naomi, kneeling down beside Orpah. I must control my grief, Ruth thought. Dear Naomi's heart is broken too. Why should I add to her burden? It is enough that she must comfort Orpah. Wow. Naomi's arms were around Orpah's shoulders. Look at me, daughter. Hold your weeping for a moment and try to think perhaps you should not leave Moab. We're doing fine with your grief over your husband's death. It is leaving your homeland, too, that has crushed you. The old woman pulled herself to her feet and faced both her daughters-in-law. Go back, each of you, to your mother's home. May the Lord treat you as kindly as you have been treated me and those who have died. The Lord grant that you may find rest, each in his new husband's home. Orpah was standing there now. When Naomi could say no more, she pulled them both close and kissed them. No, we are going back with you, Naomi, to your people. I beg of you, for your dear heart's sake, go back, my daughters. Why should you go with me? Do I have any more sons within me who could become your husbands? Go back, my daughters. Go your way. I am too old to marry again, and if I thought there was hope, if I were with a husband tonight, if I should bear sons, will you wait until they are grown up while you are kept from having a husband? Orpah turned her back, and wept again, but Ruth clung to Naomi. Orpah sees why I am right, Ruth. She sees, and she is wise. Orpah turned suddenly and kissed her husband's mother, then ran from them, back toward her own mother's house. Look, Ruth, your sister-in-law has got back to her people and to her gods. Go with her. Ruth lifted her head from Naomi's shoulder, and the sun glistened off her bright, thick hair as she spoke. Do not urge me to desert you by turning away from you, because wherever you go, there I will go. Wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people are my people, and your God is my God. Wherever you die, I will die, and there I shall be buried. Thus may God do to me, and worse if anything, but death separates you and me. Now that section is really famous. See, like, it's all over. I think that speech has inspired many writers out there throughout the ages to write characters between two people, and one person so loyal, following along. Anyway, so yeah, Ruth is willing to take Naomi's God as her own God. Like, whoa. Because, remember, Ruth grew up in a pagan family and they had their own gods, It's amazing what kind of love Ruth has for Naomi. Naomi said no more, and the two women walked on toward Bethlehem, and drew still closer together with every dusty mile of the nearly 120 which stretched between the little bordery river and Bethlehem. Love is not limited by the type of relationship between two people. Love is only limited by human self-concern. We are not surprised at a deep love between two friends, between a husband and wife, between parents and their children. But a love relationship between a woman and her daughter-in-law is pathetically rare. Jokes about their hospitality are the commonplace. I don't think relationship between a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law is that rare, but it seems like it is because it's not shared often. Having a solid, good relationship between two women like that. Okay. And yet here is a love relationship between a woman and her son's wife, which have written out of the centuries for me alongside Damien and Phileas, Jonathan and David, Paul and Timothy, Jesus and his disciple John. Was Orpah at fault for turning back to her own people? I think not. It is not a matter for blame of Orpah, rather for wonder that Ruth's heart held such a love capacity. She was still fairly young, doubtfully beautiful, and easily had been decided that this old woman, too old to bear more sons, was no longer any responsibility of hers. Why should she her life by saddling herself with that useless old lady? Was her poetic speech of devotion to Naomi an extension of the love she still felt for Naomi's son? But perhaps, it also defied Ruth's heart. Open, submissive, gifted with God's own capacity to love the other person. Orpah was not unusually selfish. Ruth was unusually unselfish. More than that, Naomi's own devotion to God of Israel have turned the heart of this girl from a pagan land. Orpah turned back to the gods of her people. Ruth moved toward the God of Abraham. There is no greater opportunity for a Christian woman to witness to her own devotion to God. She follows, then, in the presence of her son's wife. Now and then, but only now and then, we hear such a devotion to the Lord God. Naomi had reached Ruth for him. She had lived so that he could reach through her believing heart into the darkened heart of her daughter-in-law. And now Ruth said, "Your God is my God." There is no better test of a woman's spiritual health than that she loves her son's wife as Naomi apparently loved both Ruth and Ophrah. There is no better test as a woman's spiritual vigor than the return love of her daughter-in-law. My gosh, I'm tearing up a little bit. That's really sweet. If you witness a true love between a mother-in-law and her daughter-in-law, oh my gosh, we need to celebrate because that's so special and precious. It's so wonderful. I'm tearing up. Okay, this may take years to return in some cases, but it can happen. Love itself is never limited by the circumstances of a relationship because God himself is never limited except by a closed heart. If your heart is wide open, love is limitless. If you have a closed heart, it's kind of hard to love unconditionally. Okay. Ruth's new faith rewarded. When Naomi trudged back into Bethlehem with her daughter-in-law, Ruth, the whole town was stirred because of them. Naomi had left a happy woman with a husband, her 2 fine sons, their cattle and sheep. Now she was back, her men and possessions gone, and with her a foreigner. Tongues wagged, and even her close friends had trouble recognizing Naomi, grown so old and stooped with the weight of her great grief and poverty. "The barley season have just begun. Please let me go into the fields and glean heads of grain for our food, dear Naomi," Ruth urged. "We will make a new life together here in your land. I promise I will not allow the prejudice against me to harm me. Your God is now my God." Naomi touched Ruth's hand tenderly. "Yes, go, my daughter. Whatever have been taken from us, we must eat. God, go with you." God was guiding Ruth from the moment she walked away from Naomi the first morning to join the other women who followed the harvesters in the fields, gathering the dropped grain, the custom with women who had no other means of support. It happened that on her first day, Ruth gleaned in the field of Boaz, a rich relative of Naomi's husband. That night she told Naomi all about him. "You are interested in this great man, Boaz, my daughter." Naomi smiled, and her old eyes, which had wept for so long, twinkled a little. Ruth blushed. "There's nothing to hang your head over, child. Boaz is one of the handsomest and kindest men in all of Judah, and one of the richest." "He was kind to me," Ruth said. "He told me I could stay right in his fields, and showed me he had ordered the young men to leave me alone." She looked up. "And Naomi, Boaz also said that when I grow thirsty, I'm to drink from the vessels his men set out." Oh. The older woman chuckled. "No wonder your baskets are so full of grain. Boaz probably told the men to drop extra heads just for you." "He did speak to me in such a kind way." Naomi stood up. She had an idea. "Ruth, Boaz winnows barley tonight on the threshing floor. So should I not look for a resting place for you, that you may prosper? Have you not always been to me? Boaz is a fine man and a relative, so see here now. Take a bath, child, anoint yourself, dress up, and tonight step down to the threshing floor." "But Naomi, my mother, he is such a great man." "Hush, daughter, and remember, don't let him see you until he is through eating and drinking. When he lies down to sleep beside his grave to protect it, watch carefully the exact spot where he lies down. Then you slip in, raise the covering from his feet, and lie down too." Wow, that's really forward. Naomi told Ruth to do that. I'm sorry, it's so funny. Like, this story really brings this story alive. I mean, when you read the Bible, the story version in the Old Testament, you had to use imagination. So this writer, Eugenia Price, really bring that story to life. Where am I? As Naomi knew she would, Ruth obeyed her. Boaz was even kinder than Ruth had expected, kinder and more thoughtful of her reputation. When he found her at his feet, he lit no lamp, for fear someone would see her and gossip. Boaz already loved the beautiful, quiet-mannered, devout young woman. "He was kind, Naomi, and gracious, and he wants to marry me. But although he is a near kinsman, there is one man nearer, and before Boaz can claim me as his wife, he has to observe one Hebrew custom, is to do with you one remaining field to Naomi." Oh, Naomi actually have land. Forgot about that. "Ah, yes, I know," the old woman frowned and then smiled. "I know the custom, but also knew that the kinsman he must see. The custom says that the nearest kinsman must buy up anything sold by a widow in order to keep it in the family. Boaz will meet this scoundrel at the city gate tomorrow in the presence of 10 city elders, and offer the man the right to buy my field." "What if the other kinsmen buy it, Naomi? What then?" "Oh, he'll snap it up, daughter. Figure he can sell it back to Boaz at a big profit. But Boaz will sorely offer you along with the field, and I know this kinsman." "He's prejudiced against me, like the others?" "Happily so, yes. Mark my word, daughter. Boaz will get the field and you." Old Naomi was right, and Boaz was so loved and respected, even by those who hated Ruth, that the people crowded round him, saying, "May the Lord make the woman who will come into your home like Rachel and like Leah, who jointly built up the house of Israel." Boaz and Ruth were married, and when their child Obed was born, Naomi praised God, who did not at least leave her without a family and children to love. Even her gossipy neighbors said, "Praise be to the Lord! This daughter Ruth means more to you than 7 sons." The boy Obed, whom Naomi cared for like her own, became the father of Jesse, whose son was David the king. It is easy to understand why the German poet Goethe wrote that the book of Ruth is the loveliest little idyll that tradition has transmitted to us. The entire story is a total victory for love. Ruth was loved eventually, even by those who have despised her, because she remained so consistently lovable. The girl received love because she gave only love away. Surely she was confused and hurt by the gossip and extreme show of prejudice against her because of her pagan ancestry. But there is no indication that she nurtured resentment or even rebellion. She went out into the field openly alone, facing the gossip calmly. She gave only her love, so in the long run, love had to come back to her. When we send out love, even if there is thrown back into our faces, it is still love when it returns. That's kind of weird, to have love returned by some throwing their love in your face. Okay. Ruth did not rebel or defend herself against the ugly prejudice of the people of Bethlehem. She just went on loving, and at last the prejudice was overcome. Basically, true love will overcome prejudice. True love will overcome hatred. Like, wow. I mean, by listening to the story, you would put Ruth in a pedestal. But again, Ruth is a real person. Was a real person with flaws, But her biggest gift, the biggest part of her was be a loving person. So, yeah, maybe we're all inspired to be loving, even facing when bad things happen or hatred, prejudice are thrown at you. Like, stand firm in justice and what you believe, but also be lovable. That's why, in my opinions, in that part. Okay. Few among us today are so accurate in the face of prejudice of any kind. I, for one, have difficulty giving up my prejudice against those who have race prejudice. Remember, the I is Eugenia Price. That's her. Okay. The difficulty dwindles when we begin to love in all directions, but love cannot be legislated. It must spring from the heart of God. Well, some of you are like, "What? I don't believe in God." Whatever. But if you're a Christian, or even a Jewish person who practices Judaism, I'm pretty sure you believe that love that the love you have springs from God. Okay. It must be given to us by the Holy Spirit, as Christians believe. Ruth says that the love of God is already shed abroad in our hearts. Dare we refuse a gift we have already been given by the one who gave himself as he did on his cross, with his arms open to the whole lost, sinful world? A world which this and does include each one of us? Yeah. So I hope you feel blessed by listening to me read aloud this chapter about Ruth and a bit of her mother-in-law, Naomi. So happy ending. Yeah. It's always happy ending. It's so exciting. So I encourage you to read the book of Ruth if you have the time. I might do a series of Bible study with you with the book of Ruth maybe later. I don't know. So yeah. So be blessed and have a good day, everyone. Bye.